Hey, what's up? Getbrocked here. This will be a hopefully short video. I hope you guys enjoyed the Sigmar's final. I know it's been a bit bittersweet for a lot of us, and some of us wish we could just keep going forever. But with the nature of how my life is going to be switching to full-time work soon, all things have to come to an end. Cliche, I know, but it is what it is. On to Project Oatmeal. First off, what Project Oatmeal is not. It is not a scripted series like the Sigmaris. Like I said, I'll be switching to full-time work soon, so unless my income from YouTube just utterly skyrockets, I will never have the time or mental capacity to do something like Sigmaris again, at least in the near future. The last 6 to 10 episodes, which were drastically increased in production value, took somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 hours or more per episode to produce. That's not something I can do again, realistically. The Oatmeal series is aimed at creating an interesting, dynamic, community-involved series that has fast episode turnaround time, while still being somewhat fun to watch. It will follow a ship called the Eternity's Advent, or just Eternity for short. The best way to kind of view the frame of this series is like a board game, but instead of rolling dice, we play the dice rolls, with the added caveat that the Eternity's crew will be playing the full thing, but everyone else will be kind of like board game players. So here's a first map. This is kind of our first draft of it. Each quadrant will be a zone or server. For the first season, we're looking just to do private sessions for each server, pre-set up, but I'm in talks about setting up a separate server at some point, like a full-blown paid server. Big issue is cost right now. Quality SE servers basically require renting a machine, so kind of expensive. To be determined if that's feasible or not. Okay, I'll do a basic rundown of a single episode, which will give you a better idea of how the series will run, and then I'll discuss the subcomponents, how you can join, so on and so forth. Let's say the Eternity warps into this 9 o'clock box. The crew and all assets on set, so whatever faction is relevant. So let's just say the First Fleet here, and then a couple civilians that man these stations, and then maybe even a freighter with people around it. So roughly 10 to 15 players. So it starts, we get about 40 minutes of prep time. For the Eternity's crew, this generally means repair work, building stuff, whatever. You can't really do anything in this phase, like attack-wise. 40 minutes is over. It's now time to do the episode. Whatever is planned or not planned will begin. Let's just say for planned stuff, we have something like a major freighter comes under attack with a lot of resources. Some of the factions are going to be interested in taking that, and some of the factions, like the CDF, will be interested in defending that because that's kind of their motif. All factions would be obviously informed of the matter, and they can do what they want to do. To keep this example simple, we'll just keep it super basic. Let's just say the Eternity bumps into the First Fleet, and they have a fight. The Eternity blows up all but one enemy ship. Done. Episode finished. Episode will wind down, repairs will happen, etc. After the episode, all faction leaders will be briefed on what occurred outside of Space Engineers. They can then decide on what and where and how they want to move their fleets. This is 100% outside of Space Engineers, to be sure. This is where that board game aspect comes in. This is essentially setting up for the next episode. So, for example, the First Fleet leader might be motivated to reinforce the sector with 2 extra squadrons, for example. He will also lose those assets that died in that episode from his total ship count. And those exact ship models can never be used again. So if you had a custom ship, it would be gone. Other factions might want to send assets in the area or assets elsewhere to capitalize on the First Fleet's loss in this battle. Finally, to be 100% sure, this will not be an active full-blown server. I can't afford that, and I can't run that right now. You won't be building in your off time, you won't be mining resources, whatever. A lot of the action will happen outside of SE. Okay, so that's a basic episode. On to availability and joining the server. So first off, there's a lot of different positions available. To clarify, filming will be at Friday, 4:30, roughly 4:30 to 5:30 MST start time. So it starts in that window, and it will run about 3 hours. Faction leaders will then be expected to stay after for the after action part, roughly 30 to 40 minutes. Or we can meet up at a separate time if time is not available, but the desire is to finish it all in one day. Faction leaders. If you want to run a faction, this is your position. This involves being on for mostly every filming session that involves your faction. So this depends on which faction you're in. Some factions are in a lot of filming sessions, and some will only be there roughly once every 4 episodes. You 100% need a mic and a solid internet connection for this position, and you'll be expected to lead people at the tactical and strategic level, that is, in the game and outside of the game. Faction extras. This is another position. You will help your faction with the missions, you'll fly ships, you'll work on building ships, whatever, but you don't have to be there all the time. You just are part of that faction and you do what you can. So, very low commitment for that one. Eternity crew, that's another position. This is the main ship for filming. There's only one spot open at this point, gunnery, so you'll be handling the weapon systems. You 100% need a good mic for this, good internet, and a ton of free time. Your chances of getting this spot drastically increase if you have any kind of YouTube channel, so I can see your personality before letting you on. Finally, there's the unaligned channel. Finally, there's the unaligned faction. This is the roleplay faction, so to speak. You'll be in most episodes, if not all of them, but you won't really have much to say in terms of faction progression, right? You're not really a faction, you're just extras, essentially, but you'll have a large amount of ship availability. I'll get to that in a second. Okay, you're interested in one of these positions, how do you exactly sign up? Once this series goes, or this episode, or rather, once this video goes live, you can head on over to Discord, and you will see something like this. You can head over to Discord, and you'll see something like this. You'll notice, right, this is the regular Discord section, and then there's this Project Oatmeal section. It says work in progress now, but when it goes live, it won't be. So, you'll see this. You're going to want to read the introduction. This covers a lot of information, what I've mentioned here, and we'll make sure you are on the correct page on how stuff will be happening, right? We don't want any confusion here. Then, from doing this, you can head over to the story so far. This will give you a rough rundown of what's happened in the story. Then, you'd want to go head over to rules, because you need to understand what the limitations of this are. There might be rules in here that completely turn you off of the series. That's fine, but it's important that you read this beforehand. Not reading this and then fucking up a rule is going to probably have you anywhere from getting talked at sternly to just being removed from the series. You need to read these rules. Here are ship guidelines if you plan on making a ship, on what makes a ship, right? You build a ship, is it a cruiser, destroyer, battleship, whatever. Quick note, most fleets will only be getting cruisers and destroyers. Battleships will be a special kind of thing. And most fleets will have a higher percentage of destroyers. So if you want to build a ship that gets into the series, destroyers are generally your best bet, as are small ships, whatever. But be sure to talk to your faction leader before you start building ships. We're not just going to allow any old ships into it. It has to make sense for the faction. Okay, so those are the baseline things. Now it gets on to the factions. We have our Eternity factions and what they're capable of doing. Like I said, this is mainly only one position, and you'll get briefed outside of Discord once we decide you're part of that position. Here's the First Fleet card. So if you're interested in the First Fleet, read this, and it'll talk about how the First Fleet acts and what you can do. The First Fleet is a unique faction in that all of your ship patterns are going to be IMDC patterned, so to speak. So no custom ships for the First Fleet. Next faction is the CDF. This faction already has faction leaders in it, but if you want to be an extra, this is an excellent faction to be in. It has a very high tempo. You'll be in a lot of episodes, as will the First Fleet. But no custom ships anymore. That's already finished. And the leadership position is also filled. So only extras for the CDF. Then there's the Riders position. This is a very open-ended faction. You won't be playing as much. Only about 1 in 4 episodes will it show up. But it has access to a lot of custom ships. The leadership position is filled, but we need a lot of positions underneath the leadership positions, like extras. And once again, you will be able to use custom ships, your own built ships, at the faction leader's discretion. This faction is led currently by Rodor. You've probably seen him in the series as LT or Admiral McCormick. And then finally, as mentioned, there's the unaligned faction. It doesn't have a card because there's nothing to it. You are the extras, and you'll be briefed on an episode by episode basis. You can have a lot of your own ships, but you'll have a very little agency. I'll basically be telling you exactly what you need to be doing. Okay, I think that's about it. Hit me up in private messages on Discord if you're interested in any one of these positions, and I'll point you in the correct direction. Once the positions have been filled, I will brief all of the individual factions, answer questions directly over comms, and set you up along your way to begin filming. There will be a training period that will happen after we have everyone set up, specifically for the Eternity crew, but we will also do a mock episode that will get everyone on the same page. Okay, should be a fun project. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys around. Real quick, my sellout moment. These episodes take an incredible amount of work, as mentioned. 50 hours almost. And while Project Oatmeal should be a lot less work, hopefully, we obviously kind of have dreams of servers, setting up all kinds of cool stuff, and none of that works without money. Finally, extra income goes a long way to making something that I can maintain as a part-time thing instead of something I just eventually abandon. And who knows, maybe even full-time someday. Full-time someday, yeah. So anyway, enough of that. If you want to help out the series, help me out, make this a reality, I got a Patreon link in the description, so if you want to throw a coin to your local Space Engineers YouTuber, it's there for you. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I look forward to this project.